Be very, very quiet. I'm hunting that wascally Wendigo. Love to look upon you loony lot. I've got another loathsome lollipop for your licking luxury. 1995's Frostbiter, Wrath of the Wendigo. It's basically what happens when you ask your mom if you can stop for the Evil Dead on the way home from school. Now, that doesn't mean it can't be entertaining. In fact, I saw this one when it first came out and was all over Cinemax. And I remember that I used to tell my friends that this was my favorite trauma flick. But it's been quite a long time since I last saw it, so now that I've given it a recent viewing, does that classification still cut the mustard? Hey Abraxas, break that sleaze docket out of the freezer and let's find out.
We have 7 dead bodies, 8 cups blood, 2 naked breasts, 2 shriveled hag witch breasts, old man narration cliche, chosen one cliche, 90s native techno music cliche, white folks shocked to see a black man cliche, harbinger of impending doom cliche, evil pretend mom cliche. I got a bad feeling about this cliche. Let's split up cliche. Well, what have we got here cliche? Shotgun blast to the chest, hatchet decapitated skeleton, 1 off-screen decapitation, 1 head bitten off, 1 hand bitten off, 1 human torch, pitchfork throat wall impalement, 1 exploding hag witch thing, tree impaled corpse, face scratchery, 1 frozen ice heart ectomy, skull decorations, rapidly decomposing corpse, jump scare skeleton, giant puppet hand, flesh-hungry chili monsters, 1 plane-hating flying lizard, 1 ugly hag witch thing, slime-spewing mommy monster, 1 reanimated corpse attack, nighttime ghost visit, centerfold porn, Wendigo POV, toy plane crash, Ghostbuster electric effects, force lightning, 1 Evil Dead 2 poster, 2 Wizard of Oz references, 2 Stooges, the Iggy Pop variety, public domain It's a Wonderful Life usage, washcloth removed facial injury, naked body heat transference, 1 steaming glowing portal to hell or wherever, 1 long-winded joke, 2 songs about chili, and glorious stop-motion animation.
Our movie begins with a very old rubber mask writing his autobiography. He tells of his days of youth when he fought a powerful entity known as the Wendigo. Being victorious over the beast, he sets up a protective circle using the skulls of its victims to prevent its return. And apparently he's been living there for a long time, serving as the Guardian. We cut to the title sequence, complete with that shitty 90s trend of electronic Native American wind instrument, or whatever the fuck it was supposed to be. Seriously, who's the bastard record exec who insisted this goddamn sound was everywhere for like 5 years? Anyway, after the commercial for Pure Moods ends, we join up with Gary and Dave, 2 drunk dipfuck shitheads out hunting signs and stomping over fences. Surprise, surprise, they immediately stumble across the Guardian's cabin. Gary doesn't take kindly to being told to leave and blasts one of the skulls from the circle. But in his drunken, dick-waving showcase, his itchy trigger finger accidentally blasts the Guardian away.
The wind whispers.
Mary.
They carry him inside, the windows blast inward, and the Guardian's corpse immediately decomposes, becoming a reanimated skeleton that kicks the shit out of the 2 hunters. Outside, something big is approaching and reaches in to grab Dave. We hear a juicy crunch and see his head has been spiked. Back on the mainland, we are introduced to Sandy asleep in her incredibly cozy bed. She's visited by the spirit of the Guardian, who tells her she is now the new chosen one and that she has to complete the circle. So she immediately sets out to catch a flight to the frozen island, as that's the only way in or out. Convenient horror movie isolation is convenient. And since we haven't had enough loudmouth dipshit hunters, let's introduce an entire cabin full of drinking, reading porn, playing cards. It's your typical guy's weekend away. The door opens and the gang is joined by Tony, who brought a new friend into the mix. But while the hunters are getting to know their new addition, Sandy's flight is being attacked by Rodan or whatever. After banging around on the wing for a while, the lizard thing somehow ends up in the back seat and bites the pilot's head off. We then get to watch someone's toy plane crash into a wintry diorama. Shit, I sure hope Sandy's okay. Back at the cabin, Gary breaks in after hauling ass from whatever killed his buddy. He starts stacking flimsy, lightweight furniture against the door, and slowly, the rest of the hunters wake up and don't seem too worried about a stranger tossing their shit around. Gary does a lousy job of telling them what happened, but they all chalk it up to drunk delusions. But they invite him to sober up in their cabin and even start cooking up some chili for the guy. Unfortunately, the chili's got a mind of its own, comes alive, and bites poor Leo's hand clean off. And for whatever reason, Jerry suddenly bursts into flame. They all scream about getting the hell off the island, but they remember the only pilot won't be back till morning. Or rather, he would be back if it wasn't for that pesky little matter of having his head bitten off. And Gary dumps the pot of chili out onto the porch. Skip ahead a little bit, and Leo takes off into the woods, but nobody thinks it's a big enough deal to go after him. A shrill scream comes from outside, and the guys open the door to find a woman begging for help. She's shivering, but starts complaining about how hot it is. And that's when we get the movie's only nudity. Gary notices the girl looks exactly like the centerfold in his copy of Delicious Dames. They wrap her up in a sleeping bag. She starts smoking and gushing blood. And out rips, well, I'm not exactly sure what, but she's a hell of a lot uglier than she used to be.
Come and get me, boys!
The naked hag smacks him around for a while before she gets pinned to the wall with a pitchfork.
You're all gonna die! I'll swallow your soul! I'll swallow your soul! I'll swallow your soul!
And then she explodes, and Gary dumps the ripped up porn out on the porch. It's suddenly morning and we're out in the woods with Gary, Leo, and Tony. We learn Gary's a doctor, and he sets Leo up with some painkillers for his stump. They find the plane crash and suddenly lose all hope of rescue, but notice some fresh footprints in the snow. Thinking it might be the pilot, Gary and Leo follow the footprints and instead find Sandy. While looking for the radio, Tony finds the pilot, who's suddenly a lot more alive than you'd expect a frozen headless corpse to be. Back at the cabin...
Hey, Peter, he's dead. What happened?
He went to jump his motorcycle over an acid tank of piranha sharks and didn't stick the landing. What the fuck do you think happened? The two wrestle with the idea of putting their friend's corpse in a box and getting him out of the house. But this emotional moment would carry a little more weight if we had more than these guys playing cards for 5 minutes before all hell broke loose. Eventually, they box him up and set him outside. Leo makes it back to the cabin with Sandy and tells the others that the plane crashed. Out on the porch, the chili starts seeping into the walls and traveling under the floorboards until...
Chili. No beans. No onion.
The room is filled with adorable chili monsters out for blood. Through the chaos, the beasties only manage to get a few scratches in before they all get shotgun blasted back into con carne. Leo starts accusing Sandy of being the cause of all the trouble since it started about the time she showed up. And that's when Sandy tells them that she's the only one who can stop the monsters by closing up the gate they are using to enter our world. but she doesn't know the island and needs their help to find the circle. Naturally, they don't exactly believe her, and despite her protests, they all head out into the dark to find Gary and Tony. Not long after leaving, Sandy looks outside and sees a woman come in from the dark calling her name.
Sandy! Mother? He sent you. The Guardian sent you.
I'm here now.
Sandy brings her mom inside the cabin and starts crying about not being strong enough and how she doesn't understand her power. Suddenly, Mom's voice starts distorting and she gets extra slimy and handsy. Sandy plugs her with a shotgun and... But before she can go back inside, Gary makes it back to the cabin and barricades the door. Outside, Leo and Nick run into something. But we cut back to the cabin where we all hear their distant screams. Gary says he went back to the crash and found Tony with a crushed neck. So I guess we're down to our last two. Sandy tells Gary she's got to close the circle, and finally someone wants to help her. Unfortunately, they can't leave because there's a giant wad of molded clay bashing the shit out of their cabin. Sandy shoots at the walls for some reason, and the Wendigo stops attacking just long enough for them to find Peter freezing to death on the porch. Oh hell, is he still alive? The Wendigo bashes through the roof and grabs Gary while Sandy pulls Peter to safety and re-barricades the door. Gary is unceremoniously bashed against the cabin, his dead body is set aside, and the Wendigo walks away. Sandy goes to check and is immediately attacked by Gary's frozen, reanimated corpse. He rips his frozen heart out and Peter blows him away. Outside, Jerry's corpse bursts out of its coffin and smashes through the window. Sandy says she can feel the Wendigo growing stronger as she grows weaker, which means time is running out to stop it. The door smashes open and now it's Tony's corpse, and Sandy blasts him back to dead. The two set out and find the Guardian's cabin just as the gate blows fully open. Unfortunately, the Wendigo is already there. Peter tries to distract the beast while Sandy runs inside. The Wendigo heads to finish off Peter and is hit by, I don't know, a snowball? Oh yay! Leo's still alive too! Sandy finds the previous Guardian's skull and places it on the broken section of the circle, and Ghostbuster electric effects blast around and zap the gate. This pisses off the Wendigo something fierce, and he charges for poor Sandy. Peter goes to protect her and gets set up with the old stop-motion fastball treatment. Suddenly, the Force ghost of the Guardian appears and tells the Wendigo that it has lost and the gate to its world is closing, insisting that it leaves our world or die. The Guardian gives the Wendigo the old Palpatine special and tells Sandy to join him. The two overpower the Wendigo, who explodes. The Guardian tells Sandy that she is free to leave the island, but that the Wendigo isn't actually dead, only resting. And if it comes back, she has to return to fight. Sandy glances back, and we see two hunters walking with her, which is definitely Leo and Peter. Fade to black, and roll the credits. Now how's that for a slice of fried gold, huh? Frostbiter, Wrath of the Wendigo, is a prime example of how to use cheese in a movie. Cheese is a wonderful thing. Lots of us lactose-tolerant folks love the stuff. But here's the thing about cheese. You can't just put it on anything and expect it to be better. A cheesy pizza is great, but the base has to have something going for it too. All the cheese in the world won't save a crust that's made out of dog shit. And when Frostbiter isn't being cheesy, we're getting fantastic content, whether it be silly puppet monster attacks, full-body makeup application wrestling, or glorious stop-motion goodness. The base movie is definitely giving us the good stuff before dumping cheese whiz all over the plate. This movie is a lot of fun. Stupid fun, but fun nonetheless. The practical special effects are really great. The camera work is exciting when the action takes place, and the actors range from fairly competent to surprisingly good. Except for Sandy. She was at her best when the lines were short. But she definitely was a sympathetic cutie, so I'll give her points for that. One thing I like about this movie is that they didn't hide the special effects by making it dark every time they're on screen. The chili monster puppets and hag witch makeup both look so good, I'm thrilled we actually get to see them. No dark filters or shaky spaz cam to hide them. Heck, the chili monsters were downright cute at times. I have to wonder if the one looking like E.T. running away was on purpose. But I do have two real criticisms for the movie. One, the death of the burn victim was such a tonal switch from the rest of the movie, it came off as jarring instead of emotional. The whole movie has a goofy, slapstick, almost Abbott and Costello style of horror comedy to it. Throwing in an elongated sequence of crying while boxing up his friend and carrying the coffin outside while the mournful music plays. Boy, it just doesn't land how it's supposed to and almost feels like a runtime filler. It's one of those movie situations where we only know these two were good friends because the movie tells us they were. They don't really show it. So the whole thing feels very undeserved. And two, speaking of music, the soundtrack is a fucking banger almost every song. But my problem is they play song lyrics while the actors are talking. It never fully drowns them out, but it does muddy up the dialogue pretty badly at times. And it sucks because there's almost no point in the movie where the music isn't playing. It's practically a main character here. It really shouldn't be stepping on the actors' performances, and vice versa. But those criticisms definitely do not taint this movie enough to miss out on me giving it my very enthusiastic recommendation. This is definitely a fun time movie, and dare I say it, even after almost 30 years since the first time I saw it on Cinemax, it's still my favorite trauma flick. Now, naturally, this one clearly takes heavy inspiration from the Evil Dead franchise. Hell, at one point, there's an Evil Dead 2 poster on one of the cabin walls, so there's absolutely no question about it. But it does have another connection to the Evil Dead movies. Dave Hetmer was the stop-motion animator for the Wendigo, but he also worked on miniature mechanical effects on Army of Darkness. He also did some miniatures work on Moontrap, which I reviewed back in year 2. So if you enjoy your Evil Deadses and want to see what a talented team of filmmakers and actors can do even with a fraction of Sam Raimi's budgets, definitely check this one out sooner rather than later. And with that frosty, funky film filed away, it's time to say ta-ta, you turbulent trolleys. And until I return from the recess with another rotten reel, this is your rancid ringmaster Sugar Pants. See you in your dreams.
Who's first for my tasty treats?
Tasty treats? Are we the tasty
We're the
treats?
tasty treats in this scenario. Yes, we're the tasty treats. They're gonna take us out into the open ocean. They're gonna have their way with us, Mac. We gotta get the hell out of here.
Is this how you wanted those poor women to feel?